Greetings and love. I am Marsha with Gnoshery Libertas, and you are joining me for Sanctuary episode 47 on December 21st, 2022. Happy winter solstice to all of us in the Northern Hemisphere, and happy summer solstice to everyone celebrating in the Southern Hemisphere. I am gathered here today. Normally it is a Monday evening with a live audience. Today it is solstice Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. on the Pacific time zone. And I am doing this sanctuary on my own today, which is a bummer, but also is necessary. I have not been able to build up enough spark to hold the transmission for a group this week. I think the holiday spirit may have taken over my body as well, as far as what it feels capable of putting forth. So I do deeply apologize to our normal live audience who is here, and I will do my best to create an after call situation so that, as always, we can discuss some of these energies that are coming through. And if you would ever like to join us live, if you're listening in the replay, as well as receive our community discounts on my one-to-one private readings that I do and the mentorships with Spirit, feel free to check us out on patreon.com/Gnoshery Libertas, also on buymeacoffee.com/Gnoshery Cafe. As well, you can also check out our one-to-one private readings and mentorships through etsy.com/shop/Gnoshery Libertas. So I'm going to take a moment here to tune into Spirit to bring through the transmission. And this evening, I will not obviously be opening space up for people to share perspectives, as there is no one on the call to share a perspective tonight. But as always, please feel free to speak up during the comments and the replay. And as always, in our private signal groups, feel free to chat about the energies throughout the week. I will be available to do so. So the light transmission from Spirit this evening is called a narrow path. And this narrow path is something that we are collectively creating, that we are actually bringing these highly polarized energies into integration. So we've talked about this bifurcation of worlds since this revisioning process for humanity of 2020, where we've kind of moved into these very polarized places, which of course on the human level leads to a lot of finger pointing and blaming and not a lot of taking responsibility for oneself. It's not the most comfortable place to live, but we had to move into this bifurcation so that we could experience these highly polarized energies, so that we could balance and integrate them and create a middle way, or this narrow path, and what Spirit speaks to as the trifurcation of worlds. So this is moving into the frequency of the Trinity, which is the frequency that our soul blueprint can finally anchor and ground into. So we are going to speak today about some of the supporting energies that are going to allow us to really create and then ground into this narrow path. And what that means for many of us who have been on what feels like a narrow path for some time is that our energy from our soul interior and from the spiritual realms is now merging with the material, with the physical realm. So if you have been someone who has had to bifurcate your life in some ways, where you have a spiritual life and you have, the life where you go to work and you do your thing, we may start to find now that there is a middle way established where we get to bring all of ourselves together into one space. And some of the supporting energies that Spirit has highlighted here is being authentic, being true to ourselves, and also tuning into these peaks of joy as we begin to move through some of these heavier feelings, this confrontation of the shadow December, as Spirit called it on last week's call. Moving through some of these heavier emotions of forgiveness. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the call, as well as focusing on the energies of giving rather than taking. And of course, if you celebrate the holidays that are happening right now, this kind of puts you into that spirit. And finally, we're also encouraged to step out into the flow. And that is an energy that has been coming up over and over and over again, that we do not have the control from our mind's perspective anymore. And so we really need to trust ourselves and begin to step into the flow. The first supporting energy for this narrow path is being true to ourselves. And noticing whenever we are feeling pressured to meet the expectations of others over listening to and following our own counsel. And the body is the soul's counsel. So if the body is saying, I'm tired, I need to rest, or I need to eat, or I need to run and move, whatever it's asking for, we are encouraged to listen to it over this feeling pressured to meet the expectations of the external world or those around us. And just the fact that I'm doing this call by myself at 9:30 in the morning speaks to this, because I have tried for 2 nights to get my body to have the quantum charge to be able to deliver this transmission via an audience. It has not happened. And so this feeling pressured to meet the expectations, I could feel pressured to meet the expectations of what normally sanctuary is. But instead, Spirit guided me, listen and follow your own counsel. And this was the moment when my body felt ready to move this transmission into the world. So really listening to that within your own self and noticing any place you are feeling pressured to meet the expectations of either what is going on in the external world right now or those around us, that we may be tempted to seek this approval of others rather than pursuing what we really feel and need or want to do. And this is an opportunity to break free from any tendencies in which we have to abandon ourselves because of these misplaced values. So this was a really important line, an opportunity to break free from any tendencies we have in which to abandon ourselves because of our misplaced values. And it could be the misplaced value of simply thinking that the busyness of the season is more important than our body or our mental and emotional needs. And we're encouraged to call in the strength to be true to ourselves, regardless of the outcome, and to find the courage to face any opposition. And here, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol came forward, and Spirit said, we're reclaiming our personal integrity from Christmas's past and future. And this feeling that Scrooge, no matter how frightening it was to feel or experience and confront these Christmas past, Christmas futures, that in order to do so, or in doing so, I should say, he was able to then balance and integrate some of these energies that he had been carrying through time and space that were unhealed. So we too are encouraged to honor and lovingly express our true feelings without being attached to the outcome, to be wary of selling out to any temporary moments or any flattery, instead of maintaining the respect that comes from being faithful and true to ourselves. Making sure that we are not being pressured into playing nice while ignoring our own truth, because we are afraid of what we might face if we let our true feelings be known. Instead, we are summoning in our strength and the divine power we need to keep ourselves aligned with who we really are, sticking to our convictions in a non-aggressive, loving, and grounded way, no matter how unfamiliar or scary this might feel, even at the risk of great loss or painful disapproval from others. So it's not always easy to be true to ourselves, and yet this is what is being called for. That the fear that we face here is an illusion that is keeping us from living a fully empowered life. Spirit encourages us, stick to your truth. It will be worth the effort. The next supporting energy is that of tuning into peaks of joy. And the lyrics here were all the things come back to you. And Spirit actually shifted it to all the feelings come back to you. So this, once again, this feeling or this gnosis of having to confront some of these feelings from our past, or maybe even some feelings we have hidden from ourselves regarding our future. The question here is, are we relying heavily on our material achievements when we assess how happy we are? Are we falling into the trap of I'll be happy when I meet the right person, make the right amount of money, live in the right place, reach my ideal size, blah, 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 so on and so forth. We're encouraged instead, why wait to arrive at the perfect destination before allowing ourselves to experience sheer delight? And here, Spirit said, the peaks of joy are not found in what we will achieve, but how we are showing up to each moment. So we're really encouraged to take a step back, and by doing so, to take a walk, listen to the songbirds, sit on a bench, watch the passerby, play with our pets, listen to the music. In fact, listening to music comes through over and over again within this artificial frequency that has been kind of created as a dome around this planet, it is very easy to suck in thoughts that are not our own, which then become our own because we make them our own and turn into feelings and emotions within the body. But when we listen to music, we are actually tuned into that celestial realm, and we are less likely to pull in some of those lower vibrational thoughts that can then lead us into suffering within our own personal lives. Spirit said, look at a baby or children laughing, like be in awe of life. And that which actually leads us to a true sense of bliss, because we know this, that our material possessions, the things that we have achieved in the material realm are elusive. They will not always be here. And so to know that being alive, being grateful, and knowing that our happiness is always an inside job. And that leads us into this next frequency of forgiveness. And here, Spirit wants us to know that when we're holding on to resentment and anger, it is preventing and even suffocating our spiritual growth. That resentment is actually one of the strongest and most damaging of human emotions when held in the body and the emotional and mental fields over time. In fact, it creates a lot of dis-ease in our body, which leads to disease. So this act of forgiveness is in its own right equally incredibly powerful and has the capacity to heal and transform us. And there are past hurts right now which are coming to the surface to be healed, to have a light of awareness shined upon them. And Spirit is assisting us in stepping out of any stagnant energy which might be wrapped or corded around these old wounds, so that our hidden spiritual and life experiences can now emerge. So this is what the narrow path is all about moving out of this stagnant energy, out of this unhealed, unbalanced energy, and moving into some of these more hidden spiritual and life experiences, which can then emerge through us from our soul's interior realm when it has the space to do so. So once our past hurts are dispelled, we will feel reawakened, re-energized, happier, and more connected. And Spirit wants us to know that forgiveness is about a choice. It is not about absolving someone of their past actions or making it okay. It is a matter of releasing the anguish and torment our soul is having to cope with. It is an act of self-love, and it requires compassion, insight, kindness, and wisdom. Each time that we forgive, even if only to thank God for giving us this opportunity of evolutionary growth, we release positive energy toward healthier and more productive endeavors. And every time we forgive, we break the cycle of pain. It enables us to be less affected and constrained by the suffering and empowers us to stop feeling like a victim. As feelings of resentment and hurt begin to melt away, we love ourselves and vibrate at a higher level. Forgiving is not a sign of weakness. It is a spiritual act of courage and grace that we offer to ourselves. And so this feeling of forgiveness, moving into this energy of giving rather than taking, we are giving ourselves the space to be free of these harsher feelings, this resentment, which is really only being toxic to our own inner environment. And so the lyrics here were, I don't want to do your sleepwalk dance anymore. I will try to shake away this disease. So once again, being aware of these feelings as they come up and not shoving them down, because they are not comfortable. They are, rather heavy and can make us feel like, something is happening on a personal level, even beyond, what we are currently experiencing, because the mind always likes to extrapolate. And when it feels something in the body, make it bigger than what is actually happening. And so we're really encouraged to just allow these feelings to emerge, to give them space without necessarily judging them as good or bad, and to realize that when we do so, they actually tend to dissipate quite a bit more quickly. And we also receive that inner heart intelligence as to why they're even coming up in the first place. So Spirit asks us to take stock of our current situation. Where are we and where do we want to go? This is the energy of a restart, a clever restart that is simple and well organized. In fact, the health aspect here, Spirit says, if we have been unwell, this suggests that our health is on the mend. And we are tuning into clean eating and alternative therapies connecting with nature daily to renew and reinvigorate the energy body and to strengthen our immune system. And this is incredibly important. We've been really overwhelmed, to say the least, with how we are meant to invigorate the body and strengthen the immune system. And the reality from Spirit's perspective is that when we tune into the energy body, when we are connecting with nature daily, when we have devotional practices which allow us to connect to the energy body, to the soul body, it automatically strengthens the physical immune system. So we are already above the weave regarding what most of the psychosis and hypnosis on this planet is attempting to kind of corral us into. So we are accepting healthier practices into our routines. And Spirit has always encouraged me, like, don't try to get rid of a bad habit, add a healthier practice into what you are already doing. And when we continue to keep adding these healthier practices over time, those bad habits, those unhealthy habits, they just begin to go away. And so it's not necessarily about replacing them so much as adding healthier practices in. And if we are feeling that a situation is blocked, we are asked not to overanalyze it or to be too critical of it right now, that asking less what someone can do for us and focusing more on what we can do for others right now. So once again, this energy of giving rather than taking, and particularly giving to the energy body of not only ourselves, but those around us, because so many are starved from that deep sense of love. In fact, the lyrics here were, I don't want to be your fallback crutch anymore. Walk out into a brand new day. And so, this feeling that we can't rely on some of these bad habits or these unhealthy patterns or addictions to be our fallback crutch anymore. And we're really encouraged to walk out into this brand new day and to do so by connecting daily with nature to renew and reinvigorate the energy body, as well as adding these healthier practices into our routines. Encouraged to recommit to a healthy morning and evening routine. And many people are incredibly busy throughout the day. And so having, even a 5-minute morning and evening routine where we connect inward is enough. It's enough. And these check-ins throughout the day where we have, 30 seconds or 5 minutes here where we just focus on our breathing, or we focus on feeling gratitude and appreciation rather than stress and frustration. So Spirit calls these gradual and gentle improvements where we are paying attention to detail. So the weave, paying attention to what our external realm is syncing up within our interior realm, and being of service to others and watching as the abundance flows. As well, we may tune into a reliable person or situation. If you guys can hear that crazy stuff coming through my mic, it's my cat trying to break into my room. I do apologize. She is a reliable person or situation for trying to bang down this door. So, knowing that we are being in service to others, watching as the abundance flows towards us, knowing that reliable people and situations are coming our way, and that we're going to feel these signs of health and service and discernment. Energy which is precise and has a feeling of harvest and abundance around it. A wonderful bounty which is coming our way. And once again, Spirit encouraging us, as Spirit has been for several weeks now, to get our lives in order. We have the jellyfish come up in the reading here to symbolize flow, to surrender to our internal ebb and flow. The lyrics here, this youthful heart can love you and give you what you need. And so Tracy Chapman helping to remind us that the energy body, the youthful heart, actually has all of the life force, all of the vibrancy that we need to maintain ourselves, the quantum charge that we need in order to ground into this narrow path. That we are tuning into a more passive, relaxed, and graceful demeanor within ourselves. So we are not pushing against the flow anymore. We are relaxing into it, expanding and contracting ourselves and propelling ourselves along with the current, exerting a very small amount of energy to meet our needs. Now, if we've been someone who's been exerting a lot of energy to meet our needs, then this is a time to just take a breath and step back and to realize that we are being trained to live from the soul and not from the mind. And the mind efforts, and the mind is always in a place of doing and action and, trying to figure out or fix. Whereas the soul is taking a deep breath and exerting the least amount of energy in order to meet our needs. And this does not mean being lazy. It means being in tune with the greater flow. And when we are, we begin to demonstrate that we are true masters of giving the minimal effort for our maximum gain. And it doesn't mean, like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that we're not putting in our best effort. We are, yet it is the minimum best effort for our maximum gain. And this is the importance of letting go, surrendering, and rolling with the natural ebb and flow of the tides within our lives, as well as receiving information in advance regarding predators. And Spirit spoke to this a little bit last week, that when we are truly in the flow, we do not even have to worry about danger, because we are redirected long before the detour or before the predator shows up. And so when we're relying on our mind, we have to rely on kind of our own knowingness regarding these situations. But when we rely on Spirit and our own soul, we receive this information far in advance. And once again, bringing in this energy efficiency, that in order to thrive, we must sometimes blend in to experience aspects of the collective consciousness. So right now, we are integrating some of these greater polarities that may not even be personal to our lives, but they are helping us to experience aspects of this collective consciousness as we, as humanity as a whole, brings this into balance. And so this part of the frequency ended with being ready to follow our individual flow and sense of adventure. And the last supporting energy for this evening or this morning, wherever you are in this replay listening to this, is to ask for what we want, to not assume that others or the world around us will know at any given moment what our preferences and desires are. And this can actually be a form of passive aggressiveness when we assume that others just know what we need. So Spirit encourages that we must announce our needs and speak them directly and clearly. If we state our wants and needs, the worst that can happen is that we will not get what we want, but we will be more likely to get it than if we never had the courage to ask at all. It is time to get clear. What do we want to feel and experience? What is the quality of life that we wish to have? The more personal our desires, the harder it can be to ask and take the risk. Asking the Holy Spirit as well to fulfill our heart's desires, knowing that if something is in our heart, it is also in the heart of the Holy Spirit. So we're encouraged, do not be afraid of being shamed or scorned or deflated from any false expectations, that we're not asked right now to be fearless, but to summon our courage, that we cannot keep quiet and suffer in silence, and we cannot continue the victim martyr spiral without having intense consequence. And this usually means intense suffering. The question, why deny ourselves the privilege and beauty of receiving? And these are the frequencies of dignity, nobility, assertiveness, and boldness. So this encouragement to ask for what we want, not only in the world and to those around us, but to ask from Spirit itself, help me to achieve my heart's desires. Help me to be right place, right time, to know your divine will. So bringing all of these supporting energies together to help us land this narrow path, to create this middle way so that the soul and the spirit and the body, the Trinity, can live in harmony together. We have to be true to ourselves. We have to feel the pressure to meet the expectations of the world around us and continue instead to listen and to follow our own counsel. We're encouraged to tune into peaks of joy, to know that these peaks of joy are going to help us move through this heavier spiral where we're confronting the shadow and where we're having to release some of the heavier emotions that we've been carrying in our soul body through time and space, this energy of forgiveness. And to give rather than to take. So to really focus on what can we be in service? What can we offer right now, which is still in tune with listening to our body and listening to our own counsel. And how best can we step into the flow? How can we move out of our own ideas and expectations and outcomes for how things need to be, and instead say, thy will be done through me. I am willing to be right place, right time. I am willing to be your love and your light and your flow in the world. And then allowing the divine and our own souls to direct us to be right place and right time, and to know that we might be having to reclaim some parts of ourselves, some parts of our soul, what Spirit referred to here through the Christmas carol, of having to confront Christmas pasts and Christmas future, and that no matter how frightening that it might be, to honor and to lovingly express our feelings around this situation without being too attached to the outcome. I want to thank everyone who has gathered to listen in the replay, and once again apologize for it not being able to be a community gathering this time around for this episode, but trusting that all is perfect, all is well. And I will see everyone next Monday night. Hope everyone has a beautiful holiday for those who celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. And just love you guys. Thank you so much for being with me, and talking into the void here really makes me appreciate the live audience. So thank you all for those who come on Monday evenings to make this alchemy even more special and more powerful. Thanks again.